you know, because a lot of us just didn't have. Sometimes we wanted somebody to like, even if they were bad, because we were like bad fathers, because you get a different perspective when you live in it. It's a whole different level of pain. But when you're fantasizing about it, you have a whole lot of stuff. And so I look at like a lot of my siblings and even some of my peers and how, you know, a lot of us had to make it up, you know, make up fatherhood, you know, and just what that meant. Some people ran, you know, some people stayed and made a lot of mistakes, and some people asked, like my little brother is the best father I know, you know, and my oldest brother is the worst father I know. You know what I mean? It's just like this idea of, you know, reaching youth. I think we're also reaching adults who may not have the language to process like the way you guys have been expressing yourselves, you know, and sitting with all those feelings about, you know, shame about the type of fathers they are or mothers they are, or, you know, even whether it's the abortions or just like the mistakes. Because, you know, all of us being parents, man, you live with that all the time. You're like, damn, am I doing this right? You know, like, and, you know, because your kids always either so happy with you or they so pissed off at you. You know what I mean? There's rarely moments of like complete, you know, grace when it comes to being a parent, you know? And so I think this idea, like a lot of youth, because we were talking about a youth emphasis, a lot of youth are looking at even guys who've lived like street lives, and they're getting like flooded with the wrong shit, you know? They're getting flooded with like, even when they hear OG, right? There's never any consequences to that. There's always, like even these, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these YouTube videos now that are out where there are all these like street movies that people are making. And usually the OG is the guy who's just like, they always go to OG, give me some advice. Because they're like successfully, you know, selling drugs. They're successfully shooting people. They hand somebody a gun and say, this is my present to you, you know, and there's just never prison and never heartbreak and never all that other shit.
That's exactly what I was trying to
show
bring.
the ugly side.
They
That's
never
exactly
show
what I'm
that.
trying to bring.
Yeah.
Because they always glorify the street life.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about the dark side of the street life.
Right.
And if you want to make a choice, you have at least get the kids, let the kids see both sides.
Well, and also to hear it like from real people.
Yeah.
You know, instead of some writer in a room like figuring out what that life is like. Like even that thing that you described with the father in that show. You know, I was thinking how when I was, you know, doing my thing out in the streets and getting high and stuff, I just remember how in the back of my mind, I would always pray like one of my like nieces, you know, because I didn't have kids at the time, didn't see me. You know what I mean? And it's like, I remember one time on an Easter Sunday, man, I was like, you know, everybody's out there dressing, and I was coming out of some after hours spot, tore up, and this little girl, it was no word spoken. This lady just kind of grabbed her little girl in her nice little dress and just kind of moved her away, you know. And in that moment, like it was like the shame, you know. You know, I was like, damn, you know. And I was trying to say, you know, I'm a college graduate, you know. And I was done some things, but it was like, you know, it was just it was ridiculous. But the shame, and I think about, I got a sister, you know, who was on crack for all of my, like, her daughter's lives. And they, you know, my mother had to take them. But there's rarely that idea where you get a room full of adults who are just honestly speaking about the consequences of, you know, what the pain did, but also like how you're coming through it, not how you worked your way up to some space where there are like halos hanging over your head, but like I think the real power is like how you living, you know, like, and that living is a challenge, you know, and it's a challenge of, and, you know, and I think that honesty is the best sort of way to live, but that's easier said than done, you know, like, you know, because you don't even know when you're lying sometimes. You know,
Right.
you know?
Can I just
Like,
want to say something?
yeah.
I know we're ready to go. I just wanted to say something. I don't have a problem telling the truth, because like I said, it's my claim to fame. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things. I mean, I know you for a few years. You heard me say some outrageous shit in my lifetime. So there's nothing that I just didn't know he was Facebook Live in it. That was the only thing. But what I wanted to say was that just talking about my dad and that whole relationship, right? and I don't know if you're right, I did want to finish something. You asked me did I want to finish something, but that was the part I wanted to finish, that now me and my father, who I had all those feelings for, we have such a great relationship because we went through the whole, and I think that's what you were just talking about, that transition of being a young boy with the inability to express himself, who I ended up living in the house while he was going through his process, and then returning, right, to my parents' home with a child, right, breaking up with my wife, and coming home and watching how my father, and me and you talked about this today, watching him interact with my son gave me an opportunity to forgive him, because I saw him with the little me, the little boy, and there was a part of me that was that would get upset, like, where were you when I was little?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But having enough empathy, I think that was one of the things we talked about today with him, that I was able to, like, wow. And I remember calling my brother, who didn't have a child yet, and I was like, yo, wait till you see Pop with your kids.
That's the real him, right?
Yeah, and like, you're gonna
He
bug
really
out
is.
when you see him. Like, my father gets on the floor with his grandkids. You know what I'm saying? So like, when I see you with your little baby, the boss, you know what I'm saying? But like, my father would get on the floor and have his grandkids. This man wouldn't even want you looking at him. You know what I'm saying? But in his transition, and that's the hope that I think what you were talking about, even in these settings. If you get somebody who's watching now, right, and you get somebody who's maybe at home on the computer and they're watching and they're saying, damn, I wish my father could talk like that.
Yeah.
Or I wish I could talk, because I'm a dad and I had just to change my approach today from what I did yesterday with homework. So when my son got home today, and because the way I was reacting to the way he was getting the homework done, so today when he came home from school, I picked him up from school. He had dinner, right? No television. He was upset. Because you gotta let him watch TV while he eats, right? I said, no TV today. I said, after you eat, you have to do your homework. And then, when it's completed, so, like, now I got 2.5 hours of doing homework, with him and spending some time with him, but also realizing that he needed no distraction to get it done. And I needed for him to get it done so he wouldn't be a distraction. You know what I'm saying? To the process.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know I have to set the boundaries. I have to be the one who's on point. I have to set up his time and what's good and what's not. And he doesn't have to like it. So some of this group, some of the parts we're not gonna like, and the people aren't gonna like. But like you were saying to Nick, right? Part of the process and part of the healing process is this some uncomfortability. But being able to manage the uncomfortability is when I guess it would be the facilitator's job to be able to move the group in the right place. I just wanted to make sure that I said how much I love my dad.
Yo, prisa!
I think it's important that you mentioned that uncomfortability is part of the process, because the process is not enjoyable all the time.
It's not all peaches and cream.
Right, so
It's going to be uncomfortability.
This is the thing, though, right? And this I realized, with my kids. So the way you explained it to us right now, that's a rationale sometimes, well, all the time for me, that you have to attach for your kid, because it's real easy for these wounds to be inflicted. Right? I can come home and dead beat, and my granddaughter is full of energy and is like so happy to see me. She'll come and she'll run to me, and I'm like, yo, not right now. That's a wound.
Yes.
Not watching TV, if he doesn't understand exactly where you're coming from, that's a wound. And this is the thing that we don't do, right? We don't attach that rationale, because attaching that rationale also allows them to understand why. And that's what prevents the wound. So just the way you explain it to us, you'd be surprised how that same explanation will work for them. But that's how intricate we have to be if we don't want our kids to grow up with the same wounds that
Right.
we're dealing with now.
I think it's so important in addition to that to always reassure our grandkids now, and then I'll say kids, for those that have kids, to reassure them that this is not being done because there's any negative emotions attached to it. Going back to what you both guys were saying, my granddaughter's 3 years old, and I already see some of her personality picking up some what we could call codependency behaviors, right? So she catches a tantrum, and then she sees that she's not gonna get her way, and then she'll come back to me and, hey, Gamma, you love me? Can I get a kiss? And while that's okay, what's not okay is that she's feeling that there's something wrong with her catching a tantrum. And that's what is important for me to undo. That, yes, I still love you, and I understand that you're trying to find your way in this world, how to get some needs met. And I'm going to always love you, even when you catch a tantrum. I did not have those words before. You call a tantrum, what are you saying? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Cállate. But now it's like, you can't,
That was what, that's on a good day.
that's
You're
right.
like a gran puta.
That's right.
There's no verbal communication with your child.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no communication and explaining them or revealing to them why it is what it is. And even after the tantrum.
That's
it's okay
right.
to have a tantrum. I understand. I still love you no matter what.
That's right. And I understand that you're trying to explore your way through life at that age, and that's okay. That's not gonna get it for you, but I'm gonna always
Give me a
love you.
kiss.
And
Don't be
it's
mad at me.
lessons.
Please, don't be mad at me.
That's right.
Don't
And
be
it's
mad
okay
at me.
if somebody's mad at you.
It happens.
Right? That's where the people pleasing and
We're
the
human
you
beings.
flexing to whatever you want me to be like comes in. No.
Yeah.
You freaking got a tantrum.
That's why I think a lot of the things that even that people are going to be watching this is that we forget that we're human beings and we're not perfect. So people, like when things happen or we do things that are bad or good in the same context, is that, you know, we should be perfect. That there's some sense of, oh, you know, why did I drop the glass on the floor with milk inside? Because you're human. You can do that. It happens. But yet we're ready to get upset and damn that fuck, I dropped what the fuck am I doing? You know what? Because you're fucking human, that's why. So you're able and you're liable to drop a glass of milk on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What do? Don't cry over spilled milk. Just fucking pick it up and clean it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of our, or at least for me, where a lot of my perceptions and a lot of behaviors and thoughts and my mentality and even, you know, a part of my personality was, you know, I shouldn't, why the fuck I made a mistake? Because and I'm really I know we got to go, but when I played sports, and I was just telling somebody like the other day, like I used to threaten my teammates. You make a fucking error next time when we come into the dugout and beat the shit out of you. Straight like that. Because I always pride myself on defense. Even though I made errors, but it was not as, I like to think today, it wasn't as frequent as somebody else who made errors on a relatively regular basis. That individual, I would terrorize him. Do it again, and I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm telling you that right now. We're not losing this game because you made a fucking error. Stop with the same way I'm saying it to you, with the vigor and the anger, is that I'm trying to duplicate how I used to do it. And it wasn't until I realized after doing some work is that, you know, I was doing the same thing that was being done to me when I was a little kid. I was being a bully and I was terrorizing people who I knew I could terrorize. Right? But the people that I knew I couldn't terrorize, be like, yo, come on, stop making errors, bro. Come on, pick up the game. You know what I mean? That type of shit.
That hurt.
You know what I mean? So even even in the midst of all that, I kind of had a sensibility of who to know not to do it, and just like as I was growing up, like some guys knew they could take advantage of me or bully me, and then some knew they couldn't, because I knew which ones I can defend myself against and the ones that I couldn't. So it's a real this was great.
I'll be here next week, you know. I know everybody can't make it all the time, and that's fine, but I'll be here next week ready to do it again. You know? And you know, we'll figure this out as we go along, you know.
It's only gonna get better.
I think so, you know.
You got
You got a lot of people interested.
Yeah, and
what
that,
it is that you want.
right, and that's what I'm working on,
That's right.
you know, constantly.
And even try to go geared towards, you know, having individualized groups with people who have dealt with abuse, sexual abuse, and or who have been in prison for a long time. You know what I mean? Where they can readily more identify, right, with each other, and then also those inner issues that they may have not talked about, that may have dealing with sexual abuse, may come out. So therefore, there's more than one group or forum for them to express certain issues or a lot of issues that they may be going through. I think.
And I think these are good too, like the different dynamics.
Yeah.
You know, we have different backgrounds. We have women, you know, and it's funny because, you know, we all can identify, you know what I'm trying to say? So we identify with everything that was said and we get different perspectives because we come from different backgrounds too. So I think it's all inclusive, you know what I mean? Let me tell you something, we got about 50 people. I got my inbox is off the hook right now. They want to participate. Yeah, I just showed him the numbers too. Almost 300 people and counting, you know, were tuned in, watching, you know. So we got people talking about when is the next group. I want to participate. I got people that talking about I could bring